cons are incredibly. There's one thing I will say, because I told Michelle, my friend Michelle, her and Chris, they lost their boy Preston, who was a good buddy of mine. He was 16 to a horrible cancer, and he was Ronald. Went to the Ronald McDonald House, and they helped him, and he went through I don't know how many surgeries. I sat with this kid through chemo, visited him in the hospital. I FaceTimed with all my superhero friends like Zach Levi and Welling and all these guys, and great kid. I used to drive up to Hemet to see him and his family, and we'd watched. In fact, his favorite show was Teen Wolf. And if he knew I was talking to you right now,
I wish
he would go crazy. In fact, his mom, we were texting and she was like, oh my God. And she's like, it's hard for me to even watch that show because, and when it ended, Preston was so upset. He was so upset. And downstairs here, I go, well, what's your favorite show? And he goes, Teen Wolf. And I go, Teen Wolf? Really? I hadn't seen Teen Wolf. And he goes, yeah, can we watch it? And I go, yeah, let's watch Teen Wolf. And we ended up watching like 3 episodes of the first season. And I was like, this is fun. This is kind of fun. And he knew like some of the lines, but it's amazing. And what I felt like when I go to these cons, for Smallville or anything I've done, when you could see like, hey, this was something my dad and I had on Tuesday nights, or and it means so much to people, and you don't realize, you're like, it's just a show. How could this mean something? And so how does that make you feel? How do you deal with that stuff?
I mean, you feel awesome, especially like I hope in my life I get to do more, but like you mentioned a film I did with Sigourney called Prayers for Bobby. Now that movie is based on a true story about a young boy, Bobby Griffith, who sadly kills himself because he's gay. His family doesn't accept him. And, like so many families who are uber religious and think that that's wrong, would just chalk it up as, the devil got a hold of him, or, hopefully, well, Mary Griffith did a 180 and realized she's the one who killed her son, not her, she pushed her son to death.
Right.
And instead of continuing that style, she does a complete 180, and to this day she was one of the leading activists for LGBTQ plus rights. And
wow.
it's just the story in itself is mind-boggling, and talking to her about her son and her interactions and that stuff is also, you're like, the amount of respect I have for her to openly talk about that, be like, you're telling me you killed your son. And she's like, it's the worst, the hardest thing I've ever done in my life
is to admit
that and realize that I did that, and then she's like, now from here on out, I'm trying to correct that. And it's a powerful message. So a movie like that, like, trust me, I would meet people all the time, and I still meet them all the time, who write me letters and be like, you've changed the way my parents talk to me. Or like, you meet like a giant, must be military man, giant burly man comes up to you and you're like, what's this guy? He'll come up and shake my hand and be like, I look at my son differently because of you. And you're like, what? It's
wow.
And again, you have that stuff, same thing with Teen Wolf stuff. But for me, with Teen Wolf, it's the same sort of thing where you're like, it's just a TV show about werewolves, but it does affect people's lives. Or if you're going through a bad time and, you're struggling to get out of bed, you find joy in a show that brings you laughter, or keeps you waking up the next day, and just to get you out of that funk, it means a lot to people. And that's the thing where you're like, wow, this is bigger than just me acting, and it's cool. And that's the stuff that really, I enjoy that aspect. I love when people tell me things like that. And same sort of thing, I've had experiences where I met a girl who she's passed away since, but Teen Wolf was her favorite thing, and she was a girl who was dying of cancer. She was young, and again, I was terrified. I had to go like in like a hazmat suit to even talk with her. I went there with some of the cast, and I was terrified. I was like, I don't know if I can handle this. Like, I'm not good with death. I don't want to see a kid that's that only has a week left to live. Like, how am I supposed to be strong for this child? And then going in there was like one of the most powerful things I've ever experienced, because she was stronger than any one of us, and like she would crack jokes about her dying with her parent. And you'd be like, well, I'm not worried about me. I'm worried about my parents, like just her energy was insane. And so to do things like that is pretty cool.
Yeah. I would go to the Ronald McDonald House a lot, and I would have to walk out and go to the bathroom and get, my composure because I would just feel it coming in. I'd go in there and I would just like break down for like 5 minutes and then kind of get it together. Cause it was just, there's nothing worse than a child suffering. Yes. There just isn't. I can't imagine anything worse than that. It's like, sometimes it takes looking at someone and going, wow, you're never going to have a life. You're never going to
Yeah.
meet a girl and have a, you know, maybe a guy have a family and travel and just nothing. I mean, you're going to,
Everything.
it's so premature.
The
It's just
strain financially that it puts on the parent, like you see, they're just barely holding on. It's tough. It's
and it's
miserable.
everywhere.
I'm gonna cry right now thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could too. It's like, yeah, it's not for the faint of heart. That's for sure. Hey there, folks. It's Michael Rosenbaum, and boy, have I got a huge announcement for you. This has been a long time coming, and it's finally here. I'm doing a live podcast. My podcast, Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum, is going live. Yeah, for the first time ever on Wednesday, October 11th at the iconic Regent in Los Angeles. And guess what? I'm not going to be alone. We're bringing a guest you might remember. He's been on the podcast. He's a friend of the show, the one, the only, Zachary Levi. We're going to catch up on life and mental health, and we're going to have a really good time with all of you. I think you know that. We're going to make it a lot of fun. We're planning a Q&A, maybe some fun games, other exclusive stuff you're only going to get by seeing it live. We're even hosting a VIP meet and greet for a small number of people before the show begins. Grab your tickets, mark your calendars, and get ready for the night of laughs, insights, and unforgettable moments. Tickets are limited, so don't miss your chance to join us on October 11th at the Regent in Los Angeles. Get your tickets now at insideofyoulive.com. This is going to be an epic night, so if you're in the area, come out and I'll see you there.